Welcome everyone to the deep dive. So today we've got something really quite fascinating, maybe even a bit perplexing based on what you sent us. It's source material from a YouTube channel, Rainbot, specifically an excerpt from a video transcript. And what makes this one stand out, makes it a bit of a challenge, frankly, isn't just the subject, the murder of Lisa O, Hawaii's greatest unsolved mystery. It's the actual information we have to work with. This transcript is, let's just say, it's incredibly fragmented. It's filled with these garbled bits, voices that seem totally nonsensical. I mean, things you wouldn't expect anywhere near a cold case discussion. So our task today, our deep dive, it's not just about Lisa O's story. It's really about this challenge of pulling out meaning, finding maybe some kernels of truth from data that seems, almost designed to confuse.
And that's exactly what makes it so interesting, I think. What's really intriguing here is this idea that even when data looks like a complete mess, totally corrupted, or maybe when automated transcription just messes up, there are often still these little anchors left, faint signals, you could say, lost in all the noise. It kind of forces you to step back and think about what we mean by knowing something, especially when, the perfect, clear picture might just not exist. It just becomes a journey into, the process of understanding itself as much as the topic.
I couldn't agree more. It really shifts the focus. Okay, so let's try and unpack this digital jigsaw puzzle. When you first look at it, the thing that really cuts through all the static, all the weird phrases, is that central theme. It's unmistakable. The murder of Lisa O, Hawaii's greatest unsolved mystery. That phrase, or variations of it, it pops up again and again. So right away, this isn't just some forgotten case. No, this is significant. It's seen as the major unsolved mystery in Hawaii. That part's clear. It casts a long shadow. But then you get to parts like this. And I almost have to read a couple of bits just so you get the flavor. It's wild. Imagine you're trying to understand a tragedy, right? And you read lines like, Doriman, where guests where Visa matches and stalling have also be operated speaking. The series starts in differential of Rome, papal gentlemen, I hope, for the music and contact and spirit mourning of our family. I mean, or listen to this one, it's even more jarring. Sith lords, then Nudafud Walsh, Philippa Manamore, to stunters strive for contests, hurts, and the always relevant Chelsea Swansea City. Seriously, you deepen what should be a somber true crime story, and suddenly you're thinking about Japanese manga robots, Star Wars villains, or an English football match. It's completely disorienting, isn't it? And it just shows the massive hurdle this source presents.
It is almost comically obscure, yeah. But what's fascinating, and maybe a really important point for all of us now in this sort of digital information age, is how this kind of fragmentation might happen. It's not always someone deliberately trying to hide something. Often these incredibly weird phrases are just, side effects, byproducts of automated transcription software, trying its best with maybe bad audio or strong accents, or lots of background noise. Think about a computer program trying to hear accurately through static or muffled sound. It doesn't just skip words it can't make out, it often guesses. And those guesses can be based on the wildest phonetic similarities. So Sith lords might have been, witness reports said unclearly. Doraemon could be the algorithm just throwing up its hands at a garbled name or place, or even static that sounded vaguely like a word it knows. It really challenges that assumption that technology always makes things clearer. Sometimes it actually adds its own layer of confusion on top of an existing mystery.
That's a really crucial point. Technology isn't always the clarifying lens we think it is. So what does all this mean for us, for you listening, and how we approach trying to understand complex things? Normally, in a deep dive like this, you'd expect us to be, dissecting crime scene photos, looking at suspect lists, maybe analyzing forensic reports. But the source material, it forces us to pivot, doesn't it? Pulls us away from those specific who, what, when, where details of the actual crime. Instead, it makes us think about how we even start to build a story or find some truth when the information itself is so flawed, so broken up. It's like a meta mystery, the mystery of figuring out the mystery of the information we have.
Precisely. And if you connect that to the bigger picture, it really highlights something fundamental about all unsolved mysteries, doesn't it? These cases, they don't just disappear when the official investigation goes cold. They linger. They stick around in the public mind. They echo in the communities affected. And they absolutely continue to haunt the families involved decades later sometimes. The very fact that a YouTuber like Rainbot covered this case, even if the transcript ended up being difficult, that shows this ongoing public fascination. It's not always about finding the answer. Sometimes it's just about the persistence of the question itself.
Right. It taps into something really human, I think. This need we seem to have. We're sort of wired to look for patterns, aren't we? We want closure. We want to make sense of the chaos. And unsolved mysteries, just by existing, they directly confront that drive. They force us to just sit with the uncertainty, to admit the limits of what we can know, and maybe accept that sometimes a neat final answer just isn't going to happen, which, in an era where we kind of expect instant information, perfect data, that's increasingly uncomfortable for us.
And I think this is where the real insight, the true aha moment of this particular deep dive might actually lie. It's not going to be cracking the Lisa O case itself because, like we said, the source material just doesn't give us the tools for that. Instead, the deeper insight here is, I think, twofold. First, it shows this incredible persistence of human curiosity, that drive to keep asking questions, even when the path is totally fogged up. And second, it's just a really stark example of how incredibly hard it can be to piece together any truth from information that's incomplete or compromised or even, like here, actively corrupted. I mean, think about it. This isn't just about one garbled YouTube transcript. It's the same challenge when you're trying to decipher ancient scrolls or reconstruct history from patchy records or even make sense of huge, messy data sets in science today. It sort of forces us to redefine knowing. Maybe it's not about absolute certainty, but about making the best possible guess, the most informed inference, given really tough limitations.
That's a really powerful way to frame it. So the core piece of knowledge, the nugget that we can absolutely, unequivocally take from this fragmented source, it's crystal clear, actually. It's the simple fact of Lisa Lo's case existing as Hawaii's greatest unsolved mystery.
Yeah.
That fact alone, repeated and clear amidst the noise, it proves this is an enduring enigma. A story that keeps resonating, keeps baffling people, no matter how clearly or unclearly the specific details get passed down through time and, technology. It tells us that despite all the garbled nonsense, the impact of this case, its significance in the public consciousness, remains totally undiminished. It's more than just a puzzle. It's become this cultural touchstone for unresolved questions in Hawaii. So today's deep dive, perhaps it was less about solving a crime in the way we usually think about it, and much more about understanding the very nature of information, especially imperfect information. We didn't just explore the tragic, profound mystery of Lisa Aro's unsolved murder in Hawaii. We also explored that equally fascinating and honestly really vital mystery of how we navigate, how we interpret, and ultimately how we try to understand anything when our sources are challenging. It's a potent reminder, isn't it? That sometimes the most compelling part of the story isn't just what happened, but the whole struggle of how we even try to find out.
Yeah, and this deep dive really does raise a pretty important question for all of us, I think. We live in a world that's just drowning in information, right? Some of it's clear, a lot of it's messy, some might even be deliberately misleading. So how do we, as people trying to be informed, how do we pick out the truth? How do we find meaning when the details are missing or corrupted or just plain nonsensical, like, part to this transcript? What does genuine understanding even look like for an unsolved mystery or really any complex event when we have to accept that the complete perfect set of facts might just never surface?
Yeah.
It maybe pushes us to redefine what we expect knowing to feel like and perhaps learn to be a bit more comfortable with informed ambiguity.
That's definitely a thought to mull over, a really profound point to end on. Thank you so much for joining us on this rather unusual but I hope fascinating deep dive.